There has been a lot of speculation as to who is the Exalted One for the Dark Order in All Elite Wrestling. Now, this video is going to focus on one specific candidate for who is the Exalted One, who is the person behind the distorted voice that we're hearing every week on Dynamite, that being Matt Hardy. Now, for weeks now, we've seen Evil Uno and Stu Grayson refer to the Exalted One in their promos or their vignettes on AEW Dynamite. I believe they even said last week that they are preparing for his arrival. So it would appear that the arrival of the Exalted One is imminent in All Elite Wrestling. Now, what is imminent? I don't think it's going to be this week or the next, but it is very, very soon. Now, previously, it was suggested that the Exalted One was, in fact, Marty Scurll. Now, obviously, they haven't gone in that direction. Obviously, Scurll signed with Ring of Honor as the new head booker and on a huge contract for the British superstar. And he's also appearing for the NWA as well. He's obviously going to be appearing at the Crockett Cup. He's going to be challenging World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis. So the Exalted One isn't Marty Scurll. And even the Young Bucks actually went out of their way to suggest that that was never in the plans. It was never planned to be Marty Scurll. Now, whether you believe that or not is up for discussion for another time. I think that, potentially probably was for discussion that Marty Scurll was going to be the Exalted One at one point. But he's staying with Ring of Honor. It wasn't meant to be. So who is the Exalted One? People are also speculating other names, not including Matt Hardy. People are saying Hangman Adam Page, of course. It's very obvious and apparent that he's going down a dark path. His character has switched recently on Dynamite. He's no longer really associating himself with the Elite. He's distanced himself from the Elite. People are also saying Christopher Daniels. They had the segment a few weeks ago where the Dark Order came out, attacked everyone, including SCU, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, but didn't attack Christopher Daniels. He could go back to the Fallen Angel type character that he's done in the past, a bit of a cult character that he's done previously, so he could be the Exalted One. Some people are also saying Brody Lee, the former Luke Harper, could be the Exalted One. He is a free agent. His contract is no compete clause in his contract, finishes around March time. And previously he did get his release, but the non-compete clause basically led him to the same situation where he was at before, whereby he can't compete till March. His old contract would have expired around March time anyway, so he's in the same position. So it could be Brody Lee, it could be Luke Harper. And we'll do videos in the future discussing if it's possible for either one of these candidates, shall we say, for the Dark Order's Exalted One. But what about Matt Hardy? Now, his contract is coming up soon. It's been reported that it's March. We don't know when in March. It could be the end of March. It could be the start of March. I would assume, considering his original contract with WWE when he returned around WrestleMania 33 time, that was at the end of March, April time. So I would assume it's likely at the end of March. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. And he doesn't have any time added on like his brother Jeff. Obviously, Jeff Hardy's had a few injuries and time has been added on to his contract. Because of that, WWE has put in a new clause in contracts. I believe this was a few years back, but Rey Mysterio even had the problem with this back in 2014, 2015, whereby if you're injured, they essentially freeze the length of your contract and they add it on to the end of it. So if you're injured, WWE, while you're still under contract for WWE and you're still getting your downside that is agreed on your contract, they have the right to add that time on to your contract. So essentially, if you're injured, it's going to be added on at some point. So that's the issue with Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy's contract probably originally expired at the same time as Matt Hardy's, but it doesn't anymore because of his injuries. Now, previously, ever since really Jeff Hardy's injury, back just after WrestleMania last year, Matt Hardy has not been really used at all. He's been used sparingly most of the time to put over younger talent or put over talent that WWE is interested in pushing. Now, that's not a bad use for Matt Hardy, okay? He's way up there in his years and his career is winding down. He's not the Matt Hardy he used to be. He's been pretty beat up. Even though he probably at the moment is in the best shape of his life, it's very difficult to make the argument that he should be going over young and upcoming talent. However, However, like with any talent in the WWE, once their contract is starting to wind down, wouldn't you know it, they start to get featured more on WWE TV in more prominent positions. How many times have we seen this? You saw it with the OC at the end of last year. You saw it with Jon Moxley with his contract when it was due to expire. This happens all the time. You go back to CM Punk in that Summer of Punk back in 2011. They get put in positions, they get over, and then WWE's like, oh, we can't let this person go. We're going to have to give him a new contract. And wouldn't you know, Matt Hardy is in the exact same position in 2020. Now, Matt Hardy, of course, did have discussions with WWE about extending his contract, about a new contract, about potentially maybe going backstage into a producer role, even though he still feels that he can go in the ring, and I still think he can go in the ring. Obviously, it's not what he was before, but he can still go in the ring. He can still be a character on TV. But reports have suggested that Matt Hardy has walked away from the table with those conversations with WWE, so it's highly likely that he won't be re-signing. The reasons for that most likely are how he's going to be used on TV, and I understand, like I said, both sides of the argument on this one. WWE are probably taking the viewpoint of, well, look, we've got younger talents that have less miles on the clock and are more likely to get over. You know, this is going to probably be your last contract. It doesn't make any business sense for them to put Matt Hardy over younger talent. I get that. Whereas Matt Hardy's basically saying, look, I can give you 3 years. You've seen my previous work. You've seen my previous character work. I have something to offer to the show. And I think they're at loggerheads with that one. So it doesn't look like that Matt Hardy will be resigning. Now, he had a segment with Randy Orton 2 weeks ago on Raw. It featured into the Edge storyline. Obviously, Matt Hardy and Edge's history is well documented. He cut a great promo about how he's forgiven Edge, and once he saw Edge return, all that hate and that animosity just fell away. And it really tapped into this Randy Orton Edge storyline, asking him why did he attack Edge, blah, blah, blah. But for that effort, Matt Hardy got an RKO and a concerto, similar to how Edge was attacked by Randy Orton a couple of weeks prior to that. Now, this segment was meant to write Matt Hardy off of TV to the end of his contract. Matt Hardy rides off into the sunset and goes somewhere else. But one problem occurred in this segment, and that was the segment was absolutely awesome. Fans responded to it, critics responded to it. I think everyone universally said that it was one of the best segments on the show and one of the better segments in recent WWE or Raw history. So because of this, WWE, isn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. They decided that they're going to keep going with it. So even though he was meant to be written off of television the previous week, this past Monday on Raw, Matt Hardy appeared once again, and he was scheduled for a no-holds-barred match with Randy Orton. Now, the match, of course, never happened, thank God, because logic was there, good storytelling. Matt Hardy appeared in a neck brace, he couldn't get cleared, and then Randy Orton once again inevitably attacks him. Hits an RKO, hits him with a steel chair. Seems like he's going to go for the concerto once again, but he doesn't. This time he does a modified version on the steel steps on the outside. Matt Hardy does a stretcher job and is off WWE television. Now, this would appear that it is actually the final nail in the coffin on this one, and now Matt Hardy has been written off of WWE television. But this is WWE, of course. Now, I would not be stunned in the slightest that Matt Hardy makes another appearance on WWE TV before the end of his contract, because, like I said, WWE knows when something is working, especially Paul Heyman, who is the executive director of Monday Night Raw, knows when something is working. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bring Hardy back before the end of his contract, and I would be stunned if they don't make Hardy another contract offer. But for the time being, it appears that Matt Hardy is done with the WWE, and this was his last appearance with them. Now, in addition to his, infrequent appearances, more frequent in the last few weeks on WWE television, he's also been doing his Free the Delete series and other videos on his YouTube channel. And in them, he's actually shown, or when he's been talking to Vanguard 1, his sort of drone, he has actually shown a bit of a distorted voice. which is similar, not exactly the same, but it's similar to the Exalted One's appearances on AEW so far. So some people naturally are making that connection of, okay, this sounds a bit like the Exalted One on AEW television. After he did the stretcher job Monday night on Raw, he put out a tweet discussing about the segment, about his future, about his character. And then the following day, he did another tweet, which was actually liked by Evil Uno of the Dark Order. Now, of course, this is wrestling social media. They see that connection once again. They start putting 2 and 2 together to make 1,000. But there are links there, so of course it gets people talking. Now, if he does go to AEW and he is the Exalted One, will he be Broken Matt Hardy? He, of course, does own the rights to that version of the character, so he potentially could do that character in AEW. There was this huge controversy when he signed with the WWE back in 2017 about could he bring Broken Matt Hardy over. At the time, Impact Wrestling, TNA, whatever you want to call them, owned the rights to that character, and there was this big legal hoodoo between him and Jeff Jarrett and his wife and Anthem at the time and all of that stuff. But eventually Matt Hardy did get the rights to that character, and he didn't do the Broken character on WWE television. He did Woken Matt Hardy. So WWE owns Woken Matt Hardy owns Broken Matt Hardy. It's amazing what one letter can do, isn't it? So he could do the Broken character and bring that whole Broken universe to AEW, and I think it would be a great fit to that whole AEW universe. You look at the way they produce their backstage and other segments, some of their vignettes that haven't been placed in the ring, that have been off wherever, have actually been really well done and well produced. You think of the Dark Order vignettes, you think of the Chris Jericho, Cody vignettes they did prior to Full Gear. That's been, for me, a real high point of AEW Dynamite. Some of the real standout moments have been those vignettes. So Broken Matt and the Broken Universe could easily fit into that AEW style of producing television really well. But for me, I don't think Matt Hardy will be exactly Broken Matt on AEW. I think once again Matt Hardy will reinvent himself as this new Exalted One character. I think it will be similar to the Broken Matt character, but I think it will evolve, and that's what Matt Hardy's so great at when it comes to his characters. Broken Matt Hardy is 2016. This is 2020. Characters need to evolve and they need to change. In professional wrestling, things move so quickly. Fans are fickle. That's absolutely true. Fans are fickle and things move quickly. Matt Hardy knows this, and if he comes in as this Exalted One character, he will tweak his character and he will change as well. So I don't expect him to be Broken Matt when he comes in. I expect him to be a version of Broken Matt, but I expect him, quite frankly, to be the Exalted One. That could be Matt Hardy's new character. We've seen so many different characters that Matt Hardy has done in his career. To be honest, he's up there with the likes of Chris Jericho and The Undertaker in one being able to reinvent himself over and over again. Obviously, you've got the classic Matt Hardy and the Hardy Boys. You've got Matt Hardy version 1. You've got Big Money Matt. You've got Broken Matt Hardy. You've got Woken Matt Hardy. You've got this version of Matt Hardy that's been appearing on WWE TV, which is closer to the real Matt Hardy. But I'm sure if he goes to AEW and he has a lot more creative freedom when it comes to his character, I'm sure he will do something completely different. And to be honest, he still does have a lot to offer. And he's this cult leader character, gimmick, whatever you want to call it, I think would suit him perfectly. Now, Matt Hardy, we know his body is beat up. Look at some of the TLC, the ladder matches that he's done. And like I said earlier, he is up there in age and he probably doesn't have a lot longer left in the ring at this point. But in AEW, if he's a leader of a faction, he doesn't have to work every week. It's lighter on his body. But he's a great character performer and a great promo. You can't fault Matt Hardy for his promo ability. When he was younger, people used to say, oh, Matt Hardy's promos, yeah, not maybe for me. But you look at him the last 2 weeks on Raw, how can you say Matt Hardy can't cut a promo? Because he sure can. And when he's in character, I mean, he was just maybe Matt Hardy on Raw, but when he's in character, if you look back at some of those Broken Matt promos from 2016 in Impact Wrestling, you can tell that Matt Hardy not only can cut a promo, but he can cut a promo in a character. He can fully immerse himself in a character and make compelling television. Now, AEW Revolution, their next upcoming pay-per-view, is on February 29th. and Matt Hardy's contract expires in March. Like I said earlier, I would suspect most likely at the end of March. But there is no 90-day non-complete clause in it, as it's not going to be a release. It's just going to be a contract expiring. So he could potentially appear the day after his contract expires. So, for instance, if his contract expires on March 29th, he could appear on AEW TV on March 30th. I don't even know if they've got TV that day, but you get my point. So, how likely is Matt Hardy going to be the Exalted One and jump to AEW? He would be my favourite right now of who is going to be revealed as the Exalted One. Like I said, people are saying Hangman Adam Page and Christopher Daniels. I can see what AEW are trying to do there, but I don't think it is for a couple of reasons. One, I think they're red herrings. I think they're trying to throw us off the scent here, and I just think it would be too obvious. That's why for me they're red herrings. Now, if it is them, I will criticize AEW and say, well, it's too obvious for me. And in storytelling, and especially in wrestling whodunit or reveals, it needs to be not obvious. They're the best reveals, aren't they, when you don't see it coming? How often do we criticize WWE and anyone, quite frankly, for reveals or storylines or results that are too obvious and we could see it coming? The best TV shows, you think of Game of Thrones, whatever, you didn't see the big twist coming. And I think Matt Hardy is the Exalted One. Yes, it's a slightly obvious pick. I mean, I'm talking about it now and it hasn't happened, so it's a slightly obvious pick, but we still don't know. We don't fully know, especially with all this attention Matt Hardy's been getting on WWE television recently. People are going to be saying, well, maybe he will re-sign with WWE, and then he does show up in AEW as the Exalted One, as this version of Broken Matt. The crowd will lose their mind. So he could. I think it's quite likely. Like I said, he would be my favourite out of the names that I named earlier. But there is a conversation as to whether he will go to AEW at all. Now, think of this. There's been a lot of clamouring for him to go to the NWA. And I know some people will be saying, well, how would he fit in their studio-style wrestling, blah, blah, blah. When he became Broken Matt Hardy and they were creating the Broken Matt universe, you think of the Final Deletion and all of that stuff between him and Jeff, a big influence in that was Billy Corgan. And the likes of Jeremy Borash, of course, who is still with the WWE, primarily with NXT. But Billy Corgan was huge in creating that. At the time, he was the president of TNA or Impact Wrestling, and that got very messy very quickly. But he recently spoke about in an interview with Chris Van Vliet that some of his favourite time in professional wrestling was creating that broken universe and filming the Final Deletion and going to the Hardy compound and getting the drones out and all of that stuff. So perhaps Matt Hardy will go to the NWA or do a sort of deal maybe similar to Marty Scurll and say, look, I'll do this in AEW, but I want to go to the NWA as well, because he knows Billy Corgan. He knows what he can do for his character. He knows the creative freedom he will get for his character in the NWA. And previously, I believe Matt Hardy has actually gone on record and said that if Billy Corgan became the owner of Impact Wrestling at the time when he was in lawsuits and legal litigation with Impact Wrestling, and he was the president of Impact Wrestling, if he'd have stayed and he'd became the owner, Matt Hardy wouldn't have left Impact Wrestling. He wouldn't have left at all. The way that him and Jeff sort of left in the end was quite ugly, in that they wanted creative control, and Jeff Jarrett at the time was in charge and he didn't want to give it to him. It all got very messy. But he said, I believe this is true, that if Billy Corgan was there, you wouldn't have seen Matt Hardy and Jeff once again in the WWE. So don't rule out NWA. It's a possibility. But I think the most likely scenario that we're going to see at this point is that he goes to AEW upon the expiration of his contract and he becomes the Exalted One of the Dark Order. And then we see a different Matt Hardy in 2020, which I think would be really fun. I think right now that's the best move for him. I wouldn't, if he came to me for advice, which of course he hasn't, I would say go to AEW, do this Exalted One character. You're going to have freedom. You're going to be the talk of the business for when you jump. And this is right up your wheelhouse. Being a character, being something different, cutting promos. The worst thing you could probably do right now is stay with WWE. You know, yes, you're being featured in this hot Edge versus Randy Orton angle recently, but this isn't the best move for you, because you're going to be featured on TV, you're going to be talked about for a bit. Once you sign that new contract and they move on, you're going to just fade away into the background like you've done for the past, 9 months. The best move for him right now is to go to AEW. You can still get paid a tremendous amount in AEW because, let's face it, they have the money. You look at Chris Jericho, look at Jon Moxley. Chris Jericho's gone on record saying this is the biggest contract he's ever signed. Think about that. So Matt Hardy can go to AEW, make good money, and have the creative freedom to do something fun. And this whole Exalted One thing won't be the only thing that he does most likely in AEW, because it won't be a gimmick that lasts 2 years. It'll probably be a gimmick that lasts maybe tops 12 months, and then he has a couple more years to do something completely different as well. So I think it's likely. But as always, it's not just about my opinion. What is your opinion? Is Matt Hardy going to be the Exalted One in AEW? Would you like to see Matt Hardy jump to AEW? Or would you like to see him jump to the likes of the NWA, go back to Ring of Honor, do something different, maybe even go to Japan? Who knows? Who do you think is going to be the Exalted One overall? If not Matt Hardy, who? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We really do appreciate all of your support. More videos coming soon. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms also. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, whatever it is, we're on it. And our new podcast, of course, is coming soon. So I will speak to you again very soon. Thank you very, very, very much for watching, streaming, listening, however you've come across this video today. And I'll speak with you again very, very soon.